All my life, I've always tried to raise the bar when it comes to music and the harmonica, and always try to challenge myself and never really repeat myself, but always go for something new. So that's many things that I've tried all my life, many different quests.
Never repeating yourself.
Yeah, I mean, I've always tried to make music that would go forward for me in terms of the instrument, which is the harmonica, but also the way I think and the way I understand music. So it's always been a challenge, and I've always trying to be in a place that is not quite really comfortable, but maybe a little bit strange and weird, just to see what I can come up with. And it led me to great places. Some more successful than others, but always a place where I just had to try to raise the bar and try to come up with answers and ways of playing music that were a bit new and I guess fresh for me.
What do you remember from your first contact with the harmonica?
My first contact with harmonica was when I was quite young, a kid. Like everybody, we had one or two harmonica laying in the house, and I just tried it, and I kind of fell in love with it. I also remember that early on, my parents were listening to a lot of Beatles songs where there's a little bit of harmonica. Also, Stevie Wonder, which is also he's an amazing harmonica player. So the instrument and the sound was always sort of close. And they are huge fans of blues. So I was listening to a lot of different blues players. When finally I was in high school, I went to see a concert and I saw this guy, a blues concert, and a guy came in and sat in with the band. The leader for this concert was Luther Allison, and I'm not sure who was the harmonica player, but there was a harmonica player who came and sat in, and he just blew me away with what he could play on this little instrument. And that's when I was completely hooked. I saw this concert and I was like, man, I want to play harmonica. So I picked the chromatic harmonica, and then I've just been playing this chromatic harmonica ever since.
What did you learn from Toots Tillemans?
He is the person who gave me probably the most important piece of advice when I was young. I was about 17, and he said to me, if you like what I do, you should take it as an example and grow out of it and find your own way, your own path. It should just be something to help you find yourself, really, not just copy it. And that's really what I've been trying to do my entire life. It was quite important for me to get this piece of advice early on. And it was just right on for me. It was exactly what I needed to hear from somebody like him. And also, the thing is that I've learned a lot from him because he was one of the most beautiful human being I've ever met. And at the same time, having this incredible career, like played with literally everybody in the pop world, in jazz, of course, in all styles of music. That really influenced me because I was like, you really have the perfect example that you really don't need to be ego oriented and go for, like try to play great music. It's not about ego. Quite the opposite. It's about being able to get out the ego out of the way to be able to get to amazing level in terms of music and playing with great musicians. And that was absolutely very much influential and huge for me to understand that. It's something that has shaped my life ever since. Like I just try to stay as simple as I can and play the best music I can.
It's often said that harmonica is close to the human voice. What does it mean for you?
The reason why I picked the instrument, I believe, is because it's so close to the voice. I mean, when I was a kid, I used to sing a lot, and when my voice changed, I lost the ability to sing. And when that happened, that's when I picked the harmonica. And thinking back, I'm pretty sure that the main reason why I did that was because the harmonica really replaced my voice and was so close to the voice. Every instrument, in a sense, is sort of an imitation of a voice, in a sense. Like a lot of people, when they play guitar, they try to play guitar like they would sing, or when they play piano or violin or anything. And the harmonica is also like that, but I just do believe that with the way the instrument is built and what it can kind of bring sonically, it is really, really close naturally to the voice.
What about your voice? What happened?
I couldn't really sing like I used to. I used to be actually quite good as a kid singing, and if you meet anybody that saw me growing up when I was really young, they would always be like, "Oh, this is like the kid is singing all the time," from the age like 3 or 4 until I was a teenager and started my voice changed. For me, it was a huge loss. I just because singing was really important. It didn't mean that I was going to become a singer, but it just meant that music was absolutely huge for me. And then suddenly I just lost the ability to sing, and I needed something to replace that, and it was the harmonica.
How did you learn to develop your breath control? Because it's really about breath.
Yeah, I learned how to breathe listening to horn players, but the breathing techniques with harmonica is quite different than any other wind instrument. Singers or they all use the diaphragm a certain kind of way to be able to get certain notes and a sound. And in terms of when you talk about singers in particular, for me, I had to find a way that was different to get the sound that I wanted. Toots has a thing where his breath doesn't come from the lungs, it comes from the throat almost, like it's really high. So that he doesn't blow very hard. He blows soft and he's get this really, really warm sound. It's beautiful. The thing is, sometimes the kind of musical places where I find where I play and where I have to create, I cannot really use this technique. I can use it sometimes, but not always. And sometimes I do have to use the diaphragm. And when I do that, I had to find a technique, my own technique, really, to be able to both blow and inhale using the diaphragm, which is really hard. But eventually it becomes kind of automatic. I don't have to think about it. But it's a huge part of getting the sound together.
Talking about breathing, do you have to prepare yourself before playing on stage?
Yeah, the ideal situation where would be that I can warm up. Sometimes it's just not possible. I just have to just jump on the bandstand because I'm playing with my band and I'm responsible for everything, making sure everybody is ready, making sure everything is okay, making sure there's so many things to take care of that I don't even have time to warm up, and I just got to be ready no matter what. But the ideal situation is that I can kind of warm up a little bit, get my instrument ready, and me also having just a certain type of fluidity on the instrument, then I can perform to the best of my abilities. Sometimes it'll take me half a song to get there because I didn't have time to warm up. And I just have to have the ability to reduce that time as much as possible. So where it's hopefully maybe even just a few seconds, a few minutes, and then I'm just completely ready. But that's just the reality of being a musician, a tour musician, is that sometimes, at least for in my case, I just don't have the chance to warm up.
And do you think that your audience can hear the difference when you have this warm up or not?
No, because I make sure I'll play certain things. The warm up will not take that long. It's not gonna take even an entire song really. But what I'll do is I'll maybe play the head, like the theme, and hopefully that'll be enough for me to be warmed up. You know, and I'll play in ways where I'm just using all the muscles I need to use. In ways where they're just gonna be ready when it's my time. Also, it all depends on who's soloing first. If I'm soloing first, it's one thing. If I'm soloing second, and I just play the theme, it just gives me a time to kind of get ready for when I'm gonna solo. It's all these things that I'm thinking about when I'm playing, and I'm thinking about really a whole concert. So I just don't, like, for instance, just play a song and then I'm like, okay, let's play randomly another one. It's a whole thing that is really prepared, like where I have it's like a journey. I want to bring the audience through a journey, and I want me also to travel through the journey together with the audience. And for that, I need to have a very specific type of set where certain tunes, certain moods will be at certain times in the set, certain tempos, certain, all that stuff is very much something I think about a lot.
Do you know where exactly you're going?
I never really know where I'm going. I know where I intend to go originally, and then who knows where that will end up. Nobody knows. I don't even know. And I don't want to know. That's part of the charm of music, improvised music, is the fact that you never quite know where you end up. But it's a beautiful thing. If you really embrace it, it's really amazing because it means that you always have to adapt and you always create something that is kind of unexpected in a sense. There's certain parameters that's going to be there that are completely controlled and known, and other things that are just brought to you in ways that are complete surprises, and you have to deal with that. And it's all about your ability to either embrace it and be positive about this whole reality, or go against it because you just don't feel quite ready or able to deal with it. And the more I've played with really masters, the more I've learned about that. The fact that you got to have the ability to kind of adapt and not be too judgmental. Herbie is a great example for that.
Herbie Hancock.
Herbie Hancock and Wayne Shorters are probably the best example for that. They'll be able to always kind of embrace whatever's going on stage and be really excited about it. Not just okay, but just excited about what's going on, and try to make it better and better and better. And when everybody is on the same page with that in a group on the bandstand, whatever you can create is sometimes incredible.
I come back to your instrument. How would you describe your, I wouldn't say your relationship, but your conversation with your harmonica?
My harmonica is, I hope, kind of a really, really good friend, somebody that I'll have good days and maybe sometimes less good days with. But at the end of it, it's always something profound and beautiful. Like, um, I try to treat my instrument really well, but I'm also really demanding on what I'm asking of the instrument. So it's a little bit, I'm taking it a little bit to the limit of its abilities. And so far, I'm playing now a model that's really made for me, that has allowed me to go there, like, without any, never failing me. So it's been really incredible. Before I was using other models and I was just never really satisfied. But now I have really something that just is just incredible. I can always relate to it and make sure that it's never going to fail me. So that means I can go further and further and further with different quests. It doesn't have to be talking about playing loud, it can be playing extremely soft.
As you said, you played with giants like Herbie Hancock, Marcus Miller, or Cassandra Wilson, to name a few. What is so special about playing with such great musicians on stage?
Well, there's many things, many aspects. One aspect is, especially when you're young and it's the first time you play with somebody like that, it's like going to school in a way. It's like you learn so much. Like when I first started playing with Cassandra Wilson, I was just totally green, and I learned so much. And usually those people will teach you about a bunch of different things, not just music, but it can be about being a band leader. It can be about how you handle your business, everything. It's like it's really like going to school in a way. It's a remarkable experience, humanly. And then of course there's the music element. Those people are not at the height of their career, and it's not by chance, it happened. They really have something quite special. I remember when I first started playing with Herbie, I really felt that every time I was playing, I was always giving my best, and I was like, well, maybe today I didn't do such a bad job. I think it's decent what I did. And then he would come right after me but very nice, not trying to do anything, but he was just all about the music. And Herbie would just come right after me, right after one of my solos, and start his solo. And I just really felt that after the second or third note, whatever I played was meaningless. And it's a huge lesson. It's about being able to come with a really meaningful story, and not just play to play, but really play to say something. And all those masters, that's really what they do. They, whenever they play, it is really meaningful. It's not just to play randomly. It's really to say something. It's a lesson that you get on a daily basis, really. Like every day you keep on going on bandstand with those people, and every day you feel that again, like where you have to get better at telling your story, you know. And so you slowly refine your craft, you get better at saying something that is really your story, what you are about. I've played literally with so many people, so many of these great people and musician legends, that it really has helped me find myself in a way. And that's something that I'm so thankful for, the experience that I had with all these people, you know.
You said all these great musicians are so inspiring for you. Do they think that they are inspiring at the moment they are?
I think they're really focused about the music, hoping that people will relate and love their music. But at the same time, then it's not the reason why they create. The reason why they create is because they really have something strong to say. It's really incredible to be next to those people.
Do you ever feel you're giving a bad performance on stage?
Yeah, of course. Like everybody who's always working with something that is kind of on the edge, where you can fall sometimes, and you can rise up to the next level. But the thing is, there's different ways of about looking at a moment where you feel like you failed, like where something went wrong. Is There's ways where you can just kind of be really negative about it and be like, oh my god, I just played, it was horrible, and just that's it. Or you can sort of have a moment of like feeling really bad, and then being able to turn it around and be like, well, I'll use this experience to make sure, first of all, it just never happens again, and I'll try to get something out of it which will make me a better musician or a better person, or hopefully both, next time, That's eventually what I understood, and what I've been trying to do is to try to make sure that whatever negative experience I've had, I never have it again. So what happened is that with craft and with knowledge, you start to get better and better at avoiding those moments of real distress, or what could I say? And hopefully, there's a time where, if it happened, it's very, very short. You're able to recoup very, very rapidly. So rapidly that the audience doesn't even notice it. That's really the goal. Because it will happen. It's just, there's no way that when you play so many concerts during the year, it can't be always incredible. There's going to be moments that are better and not as good. And then whenever there's a moment that is kind of not really happening as you wish, you're able to recoup so quickly that not only the audience didn't see it, but the overall performance really didn't suffer that much. But as long as I'm able to, at the end, for me, like feel like I've really accomplished something, I've come across and say really what I wanted to say. That's what really matters to me. It's about the truth, like being really completely honest on the bandstand, playing music, never lying, never just playing to play music, but just really to really say something profound. And as long as that's really going, I just feel like I'm doing what I'm supposed to.
It's not because somebody's happy about your music that there's a truth in it.
Oh yeah, no. There's sometimes people will tell me at the end of a concert like that the concert was amazing, and I'll just be like, I'll be very thankful that they made that comment, but down inside I'll be like, man, I just totally disagree. I think I just didn't really play that well, But it doesn't really matter. Like that's what I'm saying. I gotta be able to change that into understanding why I felt it didn't really sound that good, and then trying to make sure that it doesn't happen again. Like that, I can make sure that next time, if I'm facing a similar situation, I can react and make sure that it's different than the previous time, and that it will not impact anything, the music, me, or anything. So it is a challenge because when you talk about improvisation, it's something that is not quite really controlled. Is There's an element of it that is controlled, and then there's an element that is the unknown, and the unknown is beautiful. I mean, that's something I really fully embrace. But that means that you always put yourself at risk. But that's the beauty of it to me.
What kind of risks do you like to take on stage?
I take a lot of risk, to be honest with you. It all depends also on what tune, what kind of tune. If you talk about a ballad, it's gonna be quite different than if you play like a burning tempo, a really fast tempo, or even a medium tempo. It all depends if you're playing more of a funk beat. Or everything will kind of influence the amount of what you will play musically, like the other musicians too. Like the amount of reactivity within the group will also kind of push you to go further or not with certain things. But for me, I take a lot of risk, a lot. But the music should really guide me with that. I should be able to really listen to the music and let me tell, and the music should tell me what I should do and how much of a window I have in terms of different things that I can kind of explore. I shouldn't just go one way regardless. The music is there to really basically tell it all.
What about silence? Do you like silence?
I love silence. I mean, silence is the most important part of music. I'm a person, I mean, we're doing this interview, but for instance, I'm a person, I don't talk a lot necessarily. Like, there's entire days sometimes where I barely say something because I rather listen. And when I play music, it's the same thing. If I'm with really, really amazing musicians, I most likely will play less and sometimes very little because I just enjoy listening, and then I just feel I don't have to play a lot because a lot is already said and I don't need to add. I think it would necessarily bring something better to the music. So sometimes the best that can be created is being created with you staying silent in a sense. And then sometimes you can just play one note, and that one note will be the best that you can bring and you should bring. And then sometimes you should play a lot because that's what is really necessary for the music.
What do you expect from a conversation about music?
But when you say conversation, you talk about playing music or talking about music?
Both.
Okay. Well, talking about music, I'm hoping that I'll learn something, from the other person. Like that the person will give me some information at some point that will be something I've never quite thought about this way, and that will kind of help me to grow. That's something that I enjoy when I do play to talk about music. When I play with somebody and we just play a tune, it's basically also the same. Is that I hope that I'll be in an environment that's gonna be comfortable enough where I really enjoy it, but at the same time challenging enough where I feel I'm growing and learning something. Those are really, really absolutely important elements for me to be satisfied.
I'm gonna leave the space. Please keep the microphone and add whatever you want to the interview.
Well, the last thing I would say is, first of all, I'm really happy to be included in this series because we just don't get to really share those thoughts a whole lot. And I just hope that if there's anything that I said that will kind of stay, is that it's just the word listen. That's really the most important thing, listen.